Hello and good evening, everyone. It's Dr. Scott Stoll, and welcome to Plantrician Ed Series. I was just learning something new this week, that there's this new term. Marco, maybe you've heard of this. It's called IRL, in real life. And it's part of this kind of analog renaissance that's coming in response to artificial intelligence. That, as we're creating all these digital resources, what's really missing is personal connection. And so I love these Plantrician Ed series because this is an opportunity to personally connect with somebody, to hear from their heart, not just their mind, and not just to get some constructed information that we post, but to really learn from somebody's wisdom and experience. And so that's why I'm happy that you're joining me here tonight. And that's why it's also important for all of these live events that we do. We're doing the International Plant-Based Nutrition Healthcare Conference, September 5th through the 8th in Palm Desert. And that's an in real life opportunity, not only to learn, but to connect with other people, to sit around a table, to share, to learn, and to collaborate. And there's magic that happens when you're in conversation in a community of like-minded people. Ideas, concepts, encouragement naturally are born out of those seated conversations. And so I want to encourage you, if you've not signed up yet, to come to the International Plant-Based Nutrition Healthcare Conference, September 5th through the 8th. Palm Desert, California. There's a link here. You can log on. I'm going to have Brooke and Jill put that link in the chat. So please join us. Don't miss the opportunity to be in real life with us at the PBNHC. And this evening, it's my sincere honor to introduce a dear friend of mine. I was thinking today, Marco, it's not often you get to say, hey, we met for the first time in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. But that's where Marco Borges and I first met, was Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And this evening, we're going to talk about move with purpose, eat with intention, how to create a lifestyle shift that lasts. And, today it's a world of quick fixes. It's a world of diets. It's short-lived resolutions. It's weight loss, weight gain. It's frustration. But how can you really begin creating sustained health, vitality, and longevity? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Really, and this is a journey that's not about perfection, but it's about purpose and intention. And Marco is the perfect person to talk about that. Marco Borges is a dear friend of mine. He's a globally recognized exercise physiologist, New York Times bestselling author, founder of 22 Days Nutrition, a company that's dedicated to transforming lives through plant-based living. He has an unshakable belief that health is our birthright. And I couldn't agree more, Marco. He spent decades empowering individuals, from world-renowned artists and high-performance athletes to everyday people, to take charge of their well-being through mindset, meals, and movement. And that's the essence of what he pursues. Marco is not just an architect of physical transformations, and he has done incredible things with people, but he's also a passionate advocate, as I am, for sustainability, equity, and systemic change that raises the tide for everyone to be able to participate in a life of wellness. His work sits along the intersection of personal health and global responsibility. And as you'll see this evening, Marco has contagious energy and enthusiasm. He brings a lot of practical wisdom based on his experience. He has a heart-centered approach, and he's inspired millions of people around the world to take their first step in a journey that is ongoing and keeps going to be more vibrant, compassionate, and purposeful. So, Marco, it's my sincere honor to welcome you this evening. I am so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I don't know if we should start here or if we should just say goodnight, everyone, because that was so good. I don't know how I can absolutely top that, but thank you. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to see you and to get to chat with you about something that's so close to, I know, both of our hearts. Is an absolute pleasure and joy. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Marco. I always want to honor people with an introduction because what you've done has been truly amazing. And so there's a conversation for you all, not just between Marco and I, but also you. And at the bottom, there's the Q&A bubble. So please put your questions in there. And as we go along, we'll introduce those questions into our conversation so that it's a collective conversation where we can all learn together. Marco, I wanted to start at kind of a fun place because I just read an article today. I don't know if you saw it. It's in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences, PNAS. And it's something that you and I know, and it's kind of ironic that we have to study this, but it was a really well done study by the National Academy of Sciences looking at 4,000 people. And they looked at energy expenditure and they measured different populations and economies. And so The title was Energy Expenditure and Obesity Across the Economic Spectrum. And it's not a great surprise, but they found that activity levels generally are the same across all spectrums, and that it's not energy expenditure that's the cause of the obesity epidemic. It's energy density foods, ultra processed foods that contribute to increased body fat. And I just read their conclusion, which I thought was so great. They said that, in the future, utilizing measures of body fat rather than BMI and focusing on dietary intake rather than expenditure is the future. Regulating food environments to maximize the benefits of increased calorie availability without promoting nutrient-poor obesogenic diet remains a crucial challenge in public health that will only become more acute as economic development continues globally. And they just highlighted the fact that as we develop economically, ultra-processed food and this westernized diet follows, and people naturally gain weight in that energy-dense environment because you can't exercise away that energy density. So I know that's kind of the essence of what you've always taught, is that, it begins with mindset, and then it's your meals, the whole food plant-based, and then movement. And so I think that kind of typifies kind of our conversation for this evening.
Yeah, it's wild because it's something that's so second nature to me, to us, that when you see studies like this come together, it makes you smile on the one hand, but on the other, it's like, how have we gotten this far, right? How have we gotten to a place where we could communicate, via a computer screen and make it feel like we're in front of each other, technologically speaking? Yet we're so far removed from the food that was put on this earth for us that we need someone to tell us that we need to get rid of the ultra processed food to be able to live our best lives. And I always had this, this constant saying to anyone that walked into any one of my clubs: you can't exercise away the effects of a poor diet. There's no amount of exercise in the world that can undo the effects of a poor diet. And you would see it all the time. You'd see people that come and they're exercising like mad, and they may be 50, 60, 70, 100 pounds overweight, and you think with the amount of exercise that they're doing that will somehow affect change throughout their life that will lead them to become a healthier version of themselves, or the version that they're trying to become. And more often than not, that's not the case, because what happens, which is, you and I know, the most important aspect of it, is those habits that led them to that obesity aren't changed. And they think that by just adding this one little thing, which is exercise, they're going to be able to undo those poor choices or those poor habits. And that's not the case. And it's sad, because no matter how often you repeat it to people, they more often than not, they don't want to hear that. They want this, reductive mindset conclusion, which is, give me one thing that could fix it all. And that one thing, more likely than not, is coming from big pharma or something like big pharma. And so, it's on the one hand refreshing to see that we're moving towards studies that are proving that what most of us know to be true is true. And I guess the discussion or the argument around how important it is to move with purpose and with intention is, but equally as important, if not more, is what you put into your body and where it comes from. And it's simple: eat real food.
I know it seems simple, but unfortunately, it's been complicated by all kinds of forces, right? I want to put a pin in mindset, because I want to come back to that. That is so important. But I want to just add some context for all of us. Going back to the younger Marco Borges, how did you get started? Like, when was health, lifestyle, fitness, when did it become really important and a core value and a part of your identity?
At a really young age. Because I saw disease all around me as a kid, and I saw obesity around me. And while my mom was never obese, thank God, my grandparents were, and all the other relatives were as well. And when I remember I was like 6 or 7 years old. I remember my grandmother getting on a bus and putting a pill under her tongue, and she was on probably 7 or 8 different medications at the time. And I turned to her and I said, I'm going to help you when I get older. I'm going to become a doctor and I'm going to help you get
Mm.
healthy. Thinking from a very naive place that what she needed was something to cure her. But the reality, this many years later, and I found very quickly thereafter, was that the only person that could help her was her.
Mm.
So I realized that um, at a very early age, that if I continued down the path that most of my relatives were going, that I would wind up at the same place. And that path is the habits. And I've said it, you've heard me say it before, we are not a sum of the genetic sequencing that is passed down to us as much as we are a sum of the habits that are passed down to us from our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents. And most people eat the same way they saw their parents eat, and they live their lives very similarly to how they saw their parents live their life. And so at a very young age, I got involved with physical fitness. I was an athlete as a kid. I knew that it was what I wanted for my life. Originally, I thought it was going to be medicine, and I thought that that would be my career choice. And then I very quickly realized that I could probably do more good by doing something that was more proactive than reactive. I wasn't so enamored with the idea of waiting for people to get sick in order to be able to help them. I knew that I could do a lot more good by helping people stay healthy rather than getting people to, it's like a race. And you know this better than anyone else, right? It's a lot easier to stay next to someone than it is to catch up. And so if you stay healthy, it's probably the easiest thing for you to do. Once you're 100 pounds, 150 pounds overweight, and you're on 6, 7 different prescriptions, it feels like a very daunting task to change. You have to uproot your life. You have to make the kind of change that you'll need to be able to get back to healthy weight, an active lifestyle, perhaps weaning off some of the medications, if not all of them. And so to answer your question in a very long-winded way, I knew at a very young age that this is what I would do for the rest of my life. I just didn't know how I would do it or what path it would go down. And so at an early age, I opened my first gym, and I
How
knew
old were you?
I was 21 years old.
Yeah, that's why I wanted people to know. It's amazing.
Yeah, I was 21. I saw something that I became enamored with, which was spinning, and there was no spinning studio in Florida. So I decided to bring spinning to Florida and open the first gym. And so it started there, and then I realized what an impact it had on people's lives, because even those people that were obese or morbidly obese that were coming and taking classes, something changed in them, even if it wasn't their weight, and it was their attitude, their outlook, their happiness. And a lot of them did wind up losing weight, and a lot of them did wind up chasing their goals and actually achieving them because of the care and the love that I put into what I was doing, because I felt blessed to be able to, like, in my mind, I was playing and I was getting paid for it. And I was a kid who had a business. I mean, it's like I never in my wildest dreams imagined that I would have a gym, forget about a gym, a business at any age, let alone at 21, to have my own gym. It was the place to be in Miami. So I felt really fortunate, and that just inspired me to continue. And I thought to myself, if I could only reach more people. So it was, in the beginning, it was how many people could you fit in a room for a spinning class? And it was 60 bikes. And then I was like, okay, how do we reach further into the community? How do we host events where we have the whole community come to us? How do we do events at Miami Beach and have people come and work out on the beach with us? And we started hosting bigger and bigger and bigger events. And from there it grew. But it all started from a place of, I think,
Mm.
passion and love for wanting to see people live their best lives, because there's no other way.
Yeah, the seed that was planted when you were with your grandmother and that compassion that sprung up in your heart to want to help her multiplied to helping lots of people like your grandmother.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love what you said too. It's so relevant that we are really not just the genetics that are passed down, but the sum of the habits and the lifestyles that our ancestors live, because they become rooted not only in our epigenome, but in our mindset as well. And those mindsets are very powerful because, as you know, the thoughts we think shape our identity.
Right.
And I know that you've said that lasting change really begins first in the mind and second in the habits. And so, kind of in your experience in coaching elite performers, maybe you can talk a little bit about that too, and everyday people, what have you found to be the mental shift that's most essential for somebody to create a sustainable lifestyle. And how do you help them make that kind of a shift?
Well, I think it starts there. I mean, you just said it, right? It's believing that you can. It's understanding that you're not just a collection of genetic sequencing that makes you big boned, right? Like some people, oh, my father was heavy, my grandfather was heavy, my great grandfather was heavy. I'm supposed to be heavy, right? It's not that. The minute that you empower someone with the knowledge that they are not just their genetic makeup, but rather more so the epigenetic, the lifestyle, the contributing lifestyle choices that you make on a daily basis. I've always said that we are a collection of habits from the moment we wake up in the morning to the moment we go to bed. And you think that through, if you just close your eyes for a second and you think, okay, what side of the bed do I sleep on? Even that's a habit, right? What side do you sleep on? Or are you sleeping on your back or on your stomach? And you realize that you are literally a collection of hundreds of habits throughout the day. Do you brush your teeth the minute you get up? Or do you have breakfast and then brush your teeth? Or do you have coffee and then brush your teeth? Or do you have tea and then brush your teeth? Or do you brush your teeth and then have tea? And when you break it all down into all those little habits, it doesn't feel like such a massive task to be able to achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve, whether you are Janik Sinner or you are Joe Plumber. It doesn't matter, right? They're just as attainable on either side. And so allowing people to understand that they are capable of what they want to achieve, what they want to do is, I think, the first step. You know, I love it's a really simple saying. If you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can, you can. And just getting people to understand that anything you put your mind to, you can achieve is the first step. Because if you don't think you can do it, then you might as well not even start, right? And so getting people to understand that their actions have a lot of power and their thoughts have even more power than their actions, because what you think, you'll do, and what you do repeatedly, you become. And so it's not what you do one time you are, but what you do repeatedly is what defines you, who you are, what you are as a person. You know, someone isn't mean because they're mean one time, right? They're mean because they just live that way and they're constantly doing things that are perceived as mean or that may not be nice or kind-hearted. And so at the end of the day, if you can help people assemble those habits in a really easy, tangible way, it makes it easy for them. And a lot of times people are so lost that they need you to literally map it out. And what might feel like second nature for you and me might not be for them, right? As simple as like, I have people that come to me that will say to me, I can't sleep at night. I just can't sleep. No matter what I do, I can't sleep. And then you stop them and say, do you mind if I break this down with you for a second? And I'm going to ask you questions and I don't want you to be offended by them, but I just want to go through an exercise to understand your sleep hygiene. And they're like, what? Wait, what is sleep hygiene? And no, I'm not. I won't get offended. Tell me what, ask me any question. And then you start with like, what is your behavior like before? What are you doing 30 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours? When's the last time you had your meal? What temperature is your room? Are you watching TV? Are you on your device? And more often than not, you find that they're sabotaging their sleep with the things that they're doing leading up to the moment they fall asleep. And they're thinking that they're not falling asleep because they're not tired, not realizing that they're not falling asleep because they're continuously stimulating their mind for it not to go to bed. Right. And so little things like that help empower people with like, oh my God, I really have to think intentionally about what it is that I am trying to either overcome or accomplish in order for me to be able to achieve that goal. And it starts with something as simple as like just writing it down. What are your goals? Let's write them down. And let's talk about what you may be doing today that is sabotaging you from getting there faster or at all. And for me, that's been an absolute blessing, because the minute that you break it down and you help people understand what it is that they're doing wrong, you've given them the tools on how to correct it.
Yeah, I think I understand why you're such a good coach, Marco, because you really take an interest in an individual's life and you help them see a better version of themselves and a brighter future for themselves. And that's really the key, isn't it? It's to have, sometimes people just need someone to come alongside of them and help them to see a little bit further and to see that things are possible and to help them along that journey. And I think that I see what you do, and it's really powerful. And I think you're an incredible example of that kind of a coach mentality that healthcare providers really often need to take on, because we've not been taught how to coach somebody. We expect people to make changes. We expect them to follow our recommendations, our prescriptions, and even those aren't great. You know, the research on compliance with medications is about 50%. So we don't even do a very good job of getting patients to take medications. But I think what you highlighted, and I just want people to really pay attention to that, is so important, is helping people develop a new mindset for themselves and to see that things are possible that they didn't think were possible, and to understand that change is really not as hard as they might think it is.
Yeah, I love to say that every day is a new opportunity to live the life that you truly want to live, right? And if you take that mindset and you think about what you might not have done today that you would like to accomplish tomorrow, you wake up tomorrow, it's another chance. It's another day for you to get it right, whether it was not working on your finances or working on being a better husband, brother, son, father, friend, whatever it is, citizen of the world, right? Whatever it may be, if you approach it with the idea that what happened yesterday, and today's a new day to be able to take it on in a different way, gives you the feeling of, okay, I could do this, right? I could really do this, because there's no other way to look at it, right? And when you start from a place where some people start, where they're 100 pounds overweight and they're on 6, 7, 8 different medications, and you realize how hopeless at times people can feel when they're there, and they feel like maybe they're 50 and they feel like they've thrown away half their lives. You got to help them understand that they still have 50 more years to go and then some. And today is the perfect day to make it day one, right? And we're going to make day one count, because guess what? In business and in life, it always takes a lot longer than we want it to. It will cost more money in a business, and it will take a lot longer for us to achieve those goals. And life is no different than business, right? Your health, your body, your life, the lifestyle that you're living is a lot like its own little corporation. You've got to make small tweaks and adjustments on a daily basis to continue to try to become the best version of yourself. And while perfection may not be attainable, you can progress towards it every single day. And so it's not about progression. It's not about perfection. It's more about progression. The steps that you take on a daily basis will either accelerate that progression or will slow it down. What are you choosing to do today, right? And it's simple. And a lot of times what winds up happening is we beat ourselves up, and then we have, either coaches or, drill sergeants that'll make us feel really terrible about the decisions that we make. And I think that that's really short-lived, because it might inspire you to do one workout really hard and to kill yourself in the gym, but it isn't sustainable. And you and I both know that in order for there to be real change, real effective change, it has to be sustainable. I just had this conversation with my son a couple of days ago. It's more important to be consistent than it is to do it right one time. And so I rather see someone that doesn't go to a boot camp class for an hour and a half one time and never goes back. And I'd rather see someone just walk every day for 30 minutes, right? It's the greatest exercise in the world. It can be done anywhere by anyone, or just about, right? You don't need any expensive equipment. It's fantastic as you get outside and you get some sunlight, and you get to do what you mentioned earlier, IRL, right? With people, your neighbors, maybe your friends, maybe you invite a friend you haven't seen in a while for a walk. And it's fantastic, because ultimately the power lies in us. And that's what I want people to understand. The power lies in you. You are responsible for your health. What you do day in, day out will determine your likelihood of success.
Yeah, that's powerful. And one of the things you do so well, Marco, is inspire hope in people. And, the research on hope is incredible, that when somebody has hope for a brighter future, as you were just saying, it turns on the orbital frontal cortex of their brain, and they begin strategizing, uh, finding ways over, under, around, and through obstacles. They begin to see possibilities. That activates the reticular activating system in their brain to begin seeing things they didn't see before. So hope is incredibly powerful. It's not just, this ethereal concept, but it really actually is an essential component of someone's lifestyle change. And I'd just like to build on that, because you work so well with people on this kind of mindset to movement and food. And there's this combination, I think, that you do well, which is, inspiring hope and then creating short-term motivation and structure to build habits. But you also help people develop long-term identity change. And that's where things really begin shifting. And so, how can you help people assist, in moving from short-term motivation to long-term motivation, where their health isn't just what they do, but it's who they are and who they're becoming?
It's purpose, right? You have to have purpose. And ultimately, motivation can be very short-lived. And motivation is something that you almost have to wire yourself on a daily basis to wake up motivated. And that's tough, right? For a lot of people, it's really tough. I feel like I jump out of bed every day because I have purpose in my life. There's things that I want to do. So I like to have people go through this visualization where they close their eyes and they envision themselves as a person they want to be. And if you could do that, then you could take a step back and say, how would that person approach this? And that can be applicable to anything, whether it's someone struggling with their finances because they're always spending more money than they have, or someone that doesn't have a great relationship at home because they're quick to judge, quick to respond, and not slow to take things in, think things through carefully before responding with something that might hurt someone else's feelings, to would I eat this knowing that I just did that, right? I just took an hour and a half to work out at the gym. I drove there 15 minutes. I drove back 15 minutes. I spent, an hour there. And now I'm going to have a donut for breakfast with a coffee that has 76 grams of sugar in it. Does that make any sense? Would that person be proud? Right? So you start making lifestyle choices based on who you think you are, like that person in the future, versus who you are today. Because if you're looking at it from the perspective of, I'm already 150 pounds overweight, what's another coffee gonna? Yeah, you're right. It's not gonna matter, right? But if you're looking at it from the perspective of someone who's incredibly healthy, lost all that weight, and doesn't want to put themselves back in that position. And by the way, I use weight as a marker only because we both know more often than not, it is a contributing factor to many of the lifestyle diseases that we suffer from, right? So a lot of times people don't want to talk about weight, but the reality is it's a really important issue. And so we are obsessed today with tracking. We talk about this all the time, right? Tracking our sleep, tracking our movement. How many steps did I take? How much REM did I get? When is this new drug going to come out? Should I be taking metformin? Should I be taking rapamycin? Should I be, taking microdosing GLP-1s? We're looking at all these things and we're obsessing over it because we're really trying to find that one bullet that's going to fix everything, right? That one fix, because we have this, unfortunately, we've been programmed into this reductive mindset where it all has to boil down to one thing. And as it relates to your personal health, your emotional health, your financial health, it's never one thing. It's the synchronization of all of those wonderful things that you do to be able to achieve that goal. It's not, microdosing GLP-1s, because guess what? If you don't change your habits, the minute you get off, you're going to balloon right back up again. It's not microdosing this off-label medicine, thinking that you're going to live to be 120 years old, yet you haven't done anything about the 50 pounds of excess fat that you're carrying around your stomach. Like, none of those things make sense to me. So I think I just approach things from a very practical, commonsensical place where I'm just like, think about it, right? Like, we don't need ChatGPT. We don't need to do deep research on whether this does or doesn't work. Like, just think about it. Exercise is the most underprescribed lifestyle a factor that we could possibly recommend for people to do. Yet we know We just talked about it earlier on, right? We know it's one of the greatest things you could do to age healthy. We know that resistance training, more and more studies are coming out that resistance training is one of the greatest things that older people can do to maintain muscle mass, offset the effects of sarcopenia or atrophy, et cetera, et cetera. And we now know that lifting heavy weights can be incredibly beneficial for both men and women as they reach their golden years. Why are we not prescribing that? We just want to talk about the GLP-1s. We want to talk about the crazy things that some people are doing. And we teeter from the edge of one extreme to the edge of the other. And we just keep people confused the entire time. And all I say is, look, yes, everyone knows that I am kind of obsessed with a plant-based lifestyle because it makes sense, right? It just does. And when you break it down and you stop thinking about the nonsense, think about where the animals that you're eating are getting their food from the earth, directly from the source, right? I cut out the middleman. I go straight to the source. And think about all of the studies that have taken place over the years that prove to us without a shadow of a doubt, the only lifestyle, the only diet in the world that can not just arrest and reverse heart disease is a plant-based lifestyle. When you take all those things into consideration and you push it all to the side and you're like, take the noise out of it, okay? We should be exercising more. We should be eating more intentionally, whether you're plant-based or not, right? Eliminating all the processed foods that we know are not foods, right? Shutting down the noise of all of these quick fix hacks, these get-rich-quick schemes, because they don't work, right? And being more grounded in what your purpose is, what you're trying to achieve, writing it down and going after it every single day with intention. Every day you're waking up and you're looking at that, whether it's a piece of paper or it's a note in your phone that says, this is what I'm going to do. And it doesn't have to be a list of 100 things. It could be maybe that kryptonite that you've suffered from for so many years. Don't stop at XYZ and have whatever it is that you're, that donut and that, whatever 96 gram of sugar drink that you're having that you thought was a healthy breakfast, right? When you start to approach it like that and you break it down into those simple little things, it becomes effortless. It just, the amount of success that you see happens overnight. And I believe that as humans, we will always overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a month and a year. And I want you to start thinking about, what can I accomplish this week? What can I accomplish this month? What can I accomplish this year? Versus, I need to lose 10 pounds today. I need to fix my finances today. I need to restore trust in my partner today. It doesn't happen like that in anything in life. You just need to build on it one brick at a time, one brick at a time. And when that foundation dries and it cements, you'll have the tools you need to be able to achieve any goal you set for yourself.
That's beautiful, Marco. I love that. Simple is sustainable.
That's it.
Purpose and meaning, move more, plant-powered plate, and find time to rest, right? That is simple. That's the simple formula that we get lost today. And we don't know those things.
Don't compare yourself. But this is one that's super important, more today than ever, right? Don't compare yourself to other people. You are a unique, one of one, very special person, right? Every single person is a winner. You were born, right? You had to fight out all of those sperm to become who you are, right? You already won. You're a one of one, unless you're a twin, an identical twin, right? But you're a one of one. And so in today's world where we have social everywhere, we have multiple social platforms, and we have all of the news outlets constantly bombarding us with information, what we do is, again, reductive. I like this person's nose. I like this person's chin. This person has better arms than me. This person has better hair than me. This person has a better chest. This one has a better butt. And we're piecing like Legos together this imaginary person that doesn't exist. And then on top of that, there's all the filters.
Yeah, right.
That make people
and surgeries.
and then the surgeries,
right? So we're living in a world of fantasy, and we're trying to hold ourselves up to that. And we're saying, well, why can't I be more like this? Why can't I be whatever that thing is? I'm just saying, you are one of one. You're infinitely special. Lean into that. What makes you special is you. You're a one of one. And so take your qualities, enhance them, and take the areas where you wish you could do better and plan for them, right? And then you have your roadmap for success. But this whole notion of constantly comparing ourselves to other people, trying to find this one pill or one, protocol that's going to take care of all my ailments and not put in the work, it doesn't make sense. It's like you ask, and I'll say Sinner again because it was just this weekend, right? Wimbledon. If you ask Sinner what he preferred, to have someone buy him the Wimbledon trophy and send it to his house, or to win it, to put in the work, put in the time, put in the effort, and to win it, which do you think makes more sense? No athlete wants you to buy them a trophy. It doesn't even make sense. It sounds stupid. Someone listening might be like, Marco, that's the stupidest thing I heard, but the end result is the same. You have the trophy at home. So what was it about it that was different? It was the process. It was the journey. It's always the journey. And so if you put in the work, the end result of that journey is a life worth living, a life worth waking up to. You no longer need motivation. You don't need a drill sergeant waking you up in the morning and telling you, get out of bed. You need to run. You need to do more push-ups. You wake yourself up in the morning. You know when you need to put your phone down at night. You know when you need to take that last meal. You know in your heart that you should be leaning towards a plant-based diet because it's the source of all nutrition. You know it doesn't make sense to eat a carnivore diet because there's no fiber in a carnivore diet, and you're missing out on all the wonderful nutrients that come from plants. By the way, need I remind you, that animal that you're choosing to only eat is getting its nutrients straight from the source, right? So it's none of it makes sense unless you force it to make sense by blinding yourself with, I want a quick fix and I don't want to listen to anybody else. But the minute you sit down and you really start to think through what I'm saying, it makes all the sense in the world. And you come to realization, it's like, it's on me. I've got to stop comparing myself. I've got to live with intention. I've got to clean up my diet, whether you go 100% plant-based, 95, 92, 90, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's eating more foods from the earth as nature intended for you to eat them. You do that, I guarantee you success or your money back.
I love it. It's great. That is great. It's the best money you'll ever spend, right? And I just want to continue on that same thought because you mentioned, the earth, and when we have a plant-powered plate, right? That plate is incredibly powerful, not just for our own personal transformation, but for transformation that extends beyond that when a collective number of people begin eating that plant. And you're really an advocate, not just for personal health, but also planetary health. And so maybe just share with us a little bit how you help people connect their daily food choices, not just to how it transforms their own physiology and their own lives, but it also has a larger global impact. And help them to see that how that connection matters for like a sustained personal transformation, that kind of essence of purpose and why.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with a saying that I love, which is people or a person or in general, you can have thousands of problems in your life until you get sick. When you get sick, you have one problem. That's it, just one. And that's getting healthier, right? That's your sickness. That's the one problem. And so when you think of that and you take a step back and you analyze what you eat, what we are eating as Americans, as a culture, as a society, as a family, as communities, what's being served to us in restaurants, what's being promoted to us in advertisements. we realize that the goals might not be aligned. And if there isn't goal alignment, you can't find success. And so it starts with understanding what your goals are for yourself and your family, and then taking that one step further and saying, what kind of an impact do I want to have, not just in my nucleus as a dad, as a brother, as a son, as a friend, but also what do I want my actions to lead up to, right? It's like the person that throws a wrapper out the window of the car. It's like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just one wrapper, right? If everyone did that, it would be a very big deal, right? And so I'll tell you from my personal experience how I came to this realization. I've just always been obsessed with human performance. You know this. And at an early age, while in sports, I knew that nutrition had very close connection to performance. And so I wanted to make sure that my nutrition was as perfect, if there is such a thing, as possible to allow me to perform my very best in anything and everything that I did. And then I started to really obsess over nutrients, nutrient density, the nutrient density in foods, the nutrient density in meals, and the overall nutrient density in what we consume over a day. And then I started to kind of double click, if you will, into what we were eating, why we were eating it, and how, which always blew my mind, heart disease was still the #1 killer, yet we'd made all these advancements, technologically speaking. We went from us having no phones, right? Like my kids don't understand that, right? To having pagers, to having phones that were this big, and it was like, $17 for one phone call that you'd call someone and be like, I gotta let you go. All right, you were paying by the minute, to now having phones that are basically walking satellites. You could talk to anyone on any planet, on any country on this planet, FaceTime, and not have a single glitch. We did all of that, and yet we're still dying from our lifestyle choices, basically. I mean, it's simply put, right? And so when I looked at that, I was like, wait, something is wrong. Here I am obsessing over performance, yet we're still dying because of what we, in my mind, was like what we're eating and what we're doing with our lives. We got to figure this out. And because I was already working as a trainer, as a coach, running my gym, I started really obsessing over the data. And everywhere I looked, the same thing kept popping up. The more you lean towards plants, the healthier you're going to become, right? The more you lean towards plants, the only diet that could do this, the only this. We're not, protein deficient, we're fiber deficient. And you start to look at all of these things. And when I put it all together, I was like, oh, my parents are Cuban, right? My parents migrated here from Cuba in the 50s. And we grew up on the exact opposite of a plant-based lifestyle. And so for me, this was an aha moment on the one hand, but on the other hand, it was like, oh my God, wait a second, I've been lied to my whole life. Like, how is this possible that we don't know this? People are still dying from heart disease. Why isn't everyone doing this? I am wired a little bit differently. Caution, right? I'm a little neurotic in how I live, in that if I know something, I want to do it, right? Like the minute I knew that plant-based was the way, I said, okay, solution and problem solved, right? In my family, there was a history of diabetes, heart disease, hypertension. Everyone was on hypertension medicine from a very early age. A lot of diabetics in my family, a lot of heart disease, a lot of angina, a lot of health issues through lifestyle related causes. And so when I had that aha moment, I was like, oh, this is how you avoid that. I'm pivoting. There's just no way you can convince me otherwise, unless someone shows me research that proves to me that this is not the best way to live. And then maybe I'll pivot towards that. But until someone could prove it to me without a shadow of a doubt, I'm here. And so it started there. And I know I've digressed from how it helps the planet, but I'll get to that in a second. And so the minute I knew that, I was like, okay, I'm 100% plant-based. I'm never looking back. And then the more you look at the data, the more you're like, yeah, no one's really saying 100% plant-based. It's kind of like you're plant-based. And I was looking for that because I'm a black and white guy. I want it to be like definitive, right? 100%. And I was like, well, you could probably be 90% plant-based and be just as healthy, or 95% plant-based and be just as healthy. And then I started thinking about the animals, and I was like, well, wait a second. If I could be 100% plant-based and really live the principles of ahimsa, where you do no harm, and I don't need to eat meat, I don't need to consume animal products, why would I go back? And so originally it was purely selfish. I'm doing this for my health to prevent any of these potential diseases down the line. And I want to be able to empower my kids when I have kids with this lifestyle. And then it was, oh, wait, I don't have to be 100% necessarily for the best health or the best version of me. But in order for me to live the best version that I want to live, I want to remain plant-based. And then as I did that, I guess it's like confirmation bias, right? People love to hear good things about their bad habits. And so I thought, well, this habit of mine is also, perhaps in a small way, moving the earth in a better direction. This habit of mine, in a small, very small way, might inspire other people to want to move in the same direction. And so while it started with a selfish thought, it very quickly evolved into, we can be the change that we want to see in the world. And I've always lived that philosophy, that mindset. And I thought, why not? Why do I have to, if I don't need it, I don't want it, because of what I already know. And it's tough because today, and you and I had this conversation briefly a few days ago, it's really difficult because it's almost an identity for a lot of people that are lost, right? And they're not really understanding why they're going into this. They're just trying to join another group of people because we're tribal by nature. And so what you find is that people go into it without really truly understanding what it means and how to live it. And then very quickly will try to find something else that they can relate to. And they'll teeter between, keto, then vegan, oh, that didn't work for me, then paleo, oh, that didn't work for me, then carnivore, or that didn't, and in the beginning it's like this honeymoon. But what's happening is that they're really not rewiring their habits, so they can't find the success that they're ultimately looking for. And I think that they're looking for things outside of just health and wellness. And so today, the world is moving in a really beautiful place, because for a while it felt like there was this angry mob that was in the plant-based space or the vegan community, that if you mentioned anything about, eating meat or the like, you were immediately attacked. And it made people turn off very quickly to a plant-based lifestyle. And I believe that we have moved in the direction where you no longer need to justify a lifestyle choice or shout it to the world. You just live by example, and you do what you need to do to move towards the direction of your goals. And hopefully the people that are around you will be inspired by your love, by your compassion, by your changing ways, and hopefully they'll see the glow in you and want to do the same. So it's been a lot of that. And, I'm happy to say that, 20 years later, I'm still fully plant-based. And I feel like I'm living my best life. So I can't encourage enough people to live this way.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Marco. And as you mentioned, it really is inspiring people, giving them a vision that they may not have had before of themselves and a future that they can collectively create, and coming alongside of them with support to help foster that new sense of purpose and meaning. We had a question that's really relevant from our audience. And Catherine asks, what measure would you use to illustrate to someone how important it is to make our own individual contribution, diet, lifestyle, whole food, plant-based, in order to help the climate and the planet, which has already exceeded 6 of 9 planetary boundaries required for life on Earth?
Wow. I mean, that's a great question. There's so many places that you could look. And I like to say that your contributions towards the planetary health are the benefit of the benefit, right? The first benefit should be living your best, healthiest life. And then as a result of that benefit, you have ancillary benefits that come out. But the reality is, the more foods from the earth you eat, the more, just by the nature of even not trying to deliberately eliminate packaging or eliminate waste from your diet, you're doing so, right? So you think about beans, grains, nuts, seeds, and where you find them and how they're grown, and you compare them to the amount of something as simple as water, something as simple as runoff of whatever it is that they're feeding these animals. When you think about where the antibiotics are going, right? A vast, I don't even know what the number is today. I know
80%.
it's north of 80%, right? Of the antibiotics produced in the world are going into animals, right? So when you just think of that, just think of those three things, right? Think of water, think of the antibiotics, and think of the runoff. Just that alone is such a massive problem that in one lifetime, we would not be able to undo the effects. And so I don't know that I need to quantify in a number the impact that I'm having, because I know, or that you can have by moving in this direction, because we know that any change is a change for the better. So I wouldn't get so caught up on the methane, I would not lose myself in the numbers. I would enamor myself with the impact that you will have as one individual to move the world in a better direction.
Yeah, thank you, Marco. And it's really inspiring to think about, and this is what I also share with my patients, the people I work with, what's the collective potential of 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion people changing part or or all of the 100 bites that they take in a day? And how does that impact the entire system? Maybe more than we realize. It's when we look at the opportunity for a biologic system like our body to recover and regenerate itself when it's given the right opportunity. I can't help but imagine that the earth would also have that same capacity to regenerate itself, perhaps more quickly than we realize, when it's given the right opportunity to rest and heal. And so I really appreciate what you're saying, which is, inspiring each individual and ourselves to realize that we have this stewardship opportunity not only for our own health, but for the health of our family, the people we care about, and the world that we're stewarding for the next generation.
Yeah, because the problem is so massive that if you think about it from an outside perspective, right? You look at the macro and you think about what needs to be corrected. It's defeating, right? It's really sad. However, herein lies the beauty. If you think about what one person can do and you multiply that times X billion people, the change is so profound and so quick that what you today believe to be something that's impossible to correct becomes very tangible and very real incredibly fast, right? So when you think about, oh my God, I have to, you see it in these whether it's a surf rider, these organizations that go out and clean up beaches. You go and you see the beach and you're like, there's no way anybody's cleaning that up. That's crazy. And then 100 school kids come with bags, and in less than a few hours, the entire beach is perfectly clean, right? It doesn't take a lot. It just takes one person to care enough to inspire another, and another, and another. and it just grows exponentially from there. It's like in finance, compounding interest, right? You get really far by just doing the same thing over and over again. And it starts off what we start off the conversation: consistency. Just be consistent. Put in the work. Do a little bit every single day. Do your part.
Yeah, thank you, Marco. One of our other attendees, Jennifer, asked this, and it's good news. Is the announcement by the AMA that talks about ways to prevent breast cancer through exercise and plant-based eating a surprise to you? And the follow-up is, do you think that this could be the start of traditional medicine embracing plant-based and exercise as a way to prevent illness? I mean, that's really good news that the AMA has recognized this and actually come out with a position statement.
It's phenomenal news.
Breast cancer.
It is phenomenal news. Do I believe that it is what will bring about radical change in the way people live their lives? Unfortunately, no. I'm a realist, right? And this is a bleep in the news. This will not be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. This will not be on, everyone's feed in Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat. This is not going to be on Daily Mail or Page 6 or any of the tabloids that are out there. This is kind of like, a little side note somewhere. But the beauty in all of that is that it's not surprising, right? We know that we can affect change within our own bodies and our own lives by what we do on a daily basis. And so maybe one person will read it and will feel empowered by this information and will try to move in the direction of better health by doing more exercise, eating more foods that are unprocessed, and that person will inspire another person. And in that case, yes, it's really, really wonderful news. But unfortunately, it doesn't make anyone money for, all the newspapers to say, this is how you can prevent XYZ. Today it's breast cancer. It could be colorectal cancer. It could be turbo cancers. It could be heart disease. It could be any of a number of things that we know could be corrected through lifestyle, right? Through lifestyle intervention. But unfortunately, it won't make it there. And we have to remind ourselves that the vast majority of advertising dollars out there today are coming from big pharma. And so it's not a conspiracy, it's just a reality, right? We don't promote this more because there's nothing for people to gain from it from a corporation perspective. There's no big organization that wants everyone to get healthy, which is why the onus is on you to want to live your best life.
That's great. Thank you. That is exactly right, Marco. Thank you. We have a question here from our audience. Ian asks, how do you help someone alleviate strong sugar cravings? Not talking about just habits of eating, but somebody, kind of in that when we look at the genetics of this, about 15% of the population really has strong cravings. How do you help someone overcome those cravings? How long does it take? And what kind of systems do they need to build around them to help overcome that in their life?
Yeah. So it's multi-pronged, right? So the first thing I do is help people understand what they're solving for, why they're rushing to the sugar. More often than not, you realize that you're going to the sugar for something. It's not so much for the sugar itself. Although if you're constantly eating sugar, yes, it does. I say that sugar is the most widely abused drug on the planet. In many cases, you could probably say that it is, right? But the reality is you're trying to solve for something. You're bored, you're anxious, you're happy, you're sad. We've been wired from a very early age to celebrate around sugar, right? It's your birthday. You get a huge sugar bomb, right? Called a cake. You're sad. Let me go get you an ice cream cone. You are, on a romantic date, you're capping off a meal. We have been wired and programmed to celebrate and to treat our emotions with sugar. And so that's one piece of it, right? Understanding that and trying to find a solution for whatever situation you're in You're bored, go do something. Let's figure out what you like to do, and I help you solve that, right? Like you would say to me, hey, Marco, before bed every day, I'm having a pint of, Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and I can't stop. And I'll say, okay, doctor, so why don't we do this? What is it that's happening before bed? And you're like, I don't know. I just get caught on my thoughts, and I have so much work, and I want to start publishing more, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, why don't we sit down and let's look at how we could get over that? What about a stand-up desk or a treadmill desk that allows you to write down the things while you're exercising, releasing some dopamine to the brain, making you feel good about yourself, getting you a little bit tired, then taking a nice shower, and then getting in a bed with a cold room with the lights on, and I help you find solutions for how to do that, right? So that's one part, is understanding what it is that, when are these cravings hitting you the most, right? And how do we fix that? Because it's a habit loop, right? And then outside of that, understanding that sugar is highly addictive, highly addictive. I mean, to the point where, think about it, right? You could be a 500-pound person, okay, and eating a cupcake, no one in your home will tell you to stop. Yet, if you're an alcoholic, if you're a drug addict, if you pick up, I don't know, whatever vice you have, your friends and your family members and your loved ones would be very quick to stop you, because they would not want to see you derail your success. Yet you could be 500 pounds and eating a cupcake, and it's not a problem whatsoever. And so there's this sort of like acceptance within culture that eating sugar, and lots of it, is okay. So you have to be your own sort of watchdog on how much sugar you consume. And then ultimately, you're not going to want to hear this, but the reality is, the quicker you stop eating it, the quicker you're going to stop craving it. And it sounds crazy, and you might be able to confirm this, Dr. Stoll. What I have found is that it usually takes someone 5 to 6 days of going cold turkey, zero sugar, before your body stops really craving it. The more you eat it, the more used to it you are, the more used to the feelings, the effects of that euphoric feeling that you get when you eat something that's like a sugar bomb. The quicker you stop, the better your body will be at regulating itself and no longer needing that to make you feel the way that you felt while you were on it. And it's literally like an addiction. It is literally an addiction that you can stop, like any other addiction, by figuring out why you're doing it and understanding that the further you get away from it, the less you will crave it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You have to, I always teach people too, you have to create a safe environment at home. If it's at home, you will eat more of it faster than you ever realize, because food is more powerful than our willpower, and it's created to be that way. It's not that we don't have willpower, we do have good willpower, but the foods have been engineered to be more powerful than our willpower, so they will always win. And I like to inspire people that way, so they don't feel bad about their willpower, but just understanding that the power of the food is created in such a way to overcome and overpower you, so that you'll exchange your hard-earned money for that food. So thank you, Marco. That's great. Here's a good one about exercise, because we haven't talked about that too much. So Chris asked, what are some basic exercises someone can do at home daily with no fancy equipment to ensure they're keeping up with mobility, balance, strength? And she said, thank you both for sharing your passions.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. This one, I don't want it to feel like I'm escaping the question, but I'm going to answer it like I always answer it, because it's coming from the heart. The only exercise that's sustainable is the exercise you enjoy. So I always recommend, do what you like doing. Move how you like to move. Many years ago, someone asked me, what's the best type of cardio for me? And I looked at them and I said, what do you like to do for cardio? And they looked at me and they were like, what? Like, I was crazy. Wait, I just asked you a question. Why are you asking me a question? And the reason I was asking them the question is, and I've said it repeatedly today, is because if you hate something, you're not going to do it repeatedly. You're not going to be consistent at it. And consistency is the key to success. And so if I told you to run and you hate running, there goes your success. If I said walking and you love to walk, you might achieve it. And so I want to find a place where we can agree that you need resistance training and you need cardiovascular training. So if you enjoy walking, walking is really easy. You don't need any expensive equipment. You could do it just about anywhere. You could do step-ups, which involve body weight and a little bit of cardio. And I always say resistance training goes a really long way with resistance bands that are really inexpensive. You could store them anywhere. You could live in an efficiency, a studio apartment, and still have the gym that anyone could wish for and anyone could dream of by just buying a couple of different resistance bands of different densities and using those. I've always loved body weight exercises, but again, the exercises that you enjoy are the ones that are best for you. I love body weight exercises. I love push-ups. I love pull-ups. I love dips. I love squats. I encourage you to exercise your legs because most people don't realize the most powerful pump in your body is the muscles around your leg, around your legs. And the stronger you keep those, the longer you're going to live, the healthier you're going to be. And there's a direct correlation, Dr. Stoll, you know this better than most. Our friends, Dr. Dean and Aisha Shirzai, have linked leg strength to brain health. They've linked leg strength to cognitive decline and Alzheimer's risk, etc., which means that as we age, we start to see whether it's sarcopenia or muscles atrophying by not using them, our bodies become weaker as a result of us not using them, as a result of decline in hormones. And the greatest thing that you could do to offset this is to do resistance training. Something really simple. I'll give you a routine. Walk 30 to 45 minutes every single day. Yes, every single day that you wake up and you get another chance to do it, might as well do it right. 30 to 45 minutes of walking every single day. And if you could buy yourself some resistance bands, do some arm exercises, do some leg exercises. And if you have no equipment whatsoever, do some squats in your house, some body weight squats, some lunges, and some simple push-ups, and you'll stay fit and healthy for a long, long time.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. I always call it redeem the time. You can always fit little bits of this exercise in all throughout.
That's right.
Ashwani asked this question earlier. I don't want to leave without answering it for him. He said, clinically, I'm seeing more of severe obesity than ever before, and the statistics support that. About double of those now with BMIs greater than 50. And he asks, what's the reason for this, in your estimation?
You hit on it very early on, and we're not eating real food anymore. And we have scientists that are making food that isn't food taste really, really great. That's highly addictive, but it's also highly processed and nutrient deficient. And so we have a lot of nutrient deficiency. And what we're seeing is people have to eat more and more because they're not satiated, because their body's not getting the nutrition that they ultimately want, and that genetically your body just innately wants it. That's number one. Number two, we're stuck behind devices, behind computers all day. We're more living in online than IRL. And what we used to do to get that human connection is we would leave our homes and we would go outside and we would get together with friends. When I was a kid, I would get home from school. I didn't do homework. Mom, if you're watching, I'm sorry, you know this. I would get my bicycle and I would ride bike until my mom opened the door and screamed my name, and I would have to run back and have dinner. And now we're not doing that anymore. Now if we go anywhere, it's for a limited amount of time in a car that's air conditioned. You come back and you sit in front of a computer for the rest of the day, if not in front of a TV, and then you go to bed and you're watching, so you're scrolling through social until you fall asleep, and then you're wondering why you're not getting great sleep. So you're disrupting your hormone balances in your body. You're not getting a full night's sleep, so you're not getting recovery that you wanted. You're waking up tired. When you're tired, guess what you need? You need a pick-me-up. What gives you a pick-me-up? Sugar and coffee, right? And so you're entering this vicious cycle that's like a flywheel. And once that flywheel starts going, it's very, very hard to get out of it. The beautiful thing is that there's a way out. There's a solution. You need to move more, and you need to live with intention, and you need to eat real food from the earth. And we've talked about it today for a little over an hour now. It's really, really simple. Stop waiting. If you're watching from home, if there's one person that I could help today, if there's one person that we could help today, stop waiting for a solution from Big Pharma. Stop waiting for a solution from any external source. You have the power within you to create the change that you want. Eat real food from the earth because it makes most sense and because it's best for you. Move with purpose every day. Get up in the morning and get your steps in, get your exercise in, connect with people in real life, drop the phone, get good sleep, and I promise you the results will blow your mind.
That's great. That's a beautiful way to bring this to some conclusion. Thank you, Marco. I really appreciate that. And I have one more question for you. You've done really so many amazing things, and we didn't really talk about any of those today, the people that you've coached and businesses that you've built and the millions of lives that you've actually impacted. But in your journey as a father, as a personal fitness coach, as an entrepreneur, as a kind of a global leader, what would be the couple of simple things that you would encourage people with in a pathway of building their own success after watching this? The 2 or 3 simple things that you could inspire them to start doing tomorrow to lead a life of purpose, meaning, and health.
It starts with kindness. And I think that if you're taking notes and if you want to create a little roadmap, you just write on the top of the paper or on your phone, if you're writing a little note in your phone, kindness, right? Be kind to yourself. And being kind to yourself means caring about yourself, looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, and I'm going to do right by you. And that means that it's your responsibility to feed the body the food that it needs, to nourish it from the inside out. And that means eating foods from the earth, simple, as nature intended them to be. Push away all of the processed foods and focus more on what you're going to do rather than what you're not going to do. Let's turn everything into a positive. Let's create a list of, I will do this, I will do this, I will do this. Get away from, I won't this, because that's not a solution, right? I won't this, that's not an action. That's not a solution. I won't that, right? And it creates negativity that again brings all of that back into what you're already doing. And so kindness with yourself, kindness with others, kindness with the planet. And if there's 3 things that you could do, it would be start with 1 meal a day. Make 1 meal, your breakfast really counts. And why I choose breakfast is because it's the start of the day. And if I just told you that every day is an opportunity to live the life that you want, how do you want to start that day? How do you want to start that day? How do you want to prime yourself for the day ahead? Start with a plant-based breakfast. Forget about everything else. Start with a plant-based breakfast that's really intentional. What are you going to eat? How are you going to eat it? And what's it going to do for you? How is it going to make you feel? It's going to make you feel great. So one good decision begets another good decision, and let that snowball. Let that turn into that positivity flywheel. That's 1. Number 2, when you start with a great breakfast, you feel accomplished. It's like making your bed in the morning. I don't know about you, but I get up in the morning, I want to make my bed because I feel like I'm already winning. Okay? I make my bed and I start with a really great breakfast after my workout. And so work out in the morning, get it out of the way. You start with an easy win. In a world that's as complicated and as difficult as this world is and can be, I always say that the world isn't complicated. Humans are complicated. We make things complicated. Let's simplify them. Okay? Let your day start with some easy wins, because those easy wins will snowball into something so powerful and so profound. You will be amazed by what you can accomplish in a very short period of time. Don't try to accomplish it all in one day. Start with a great breakfast, get some movement in early in the day, and then get a great night's sleep by putting your devices down. by getting away from your computers, by putting down social media, by not comparing yourself to other people and saying, I'm going to sleep with intention. I'm going to wind down at least an hour before bed. Maybe you read a book, not in bed. I've always said that your bed is to do two things. One is to sleep and the other one is to make babies. Okay. You want to prime your body. You want to wire your body to understand that when it hits that bed, it knows exactly what it needs to do, which is get you restored, repair all the damage that you've done throughout the day, and get you ready for another day to live your best life.
Wow, Marco. This evening has been an incredible playbook for success for anyone and such an amazing resource of inspiration.
Thank you.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You shared so much valuable wisdom, not information, but this was true wisdom that I know has come sometimes through the cauldron of challenges in life, and it is truly distilled and refined down into the purest wisdom. And what you shared is secret of success. And even as I was watching this, I was just thinking to myself, I'm going to send this to my children to watch. And I was thinking, I'm personally going to I'll challenge everybody that's on this as well to find 5 or 10 friends to send this link to, because what you shared is true gold. So I really want to thank you, Marco, for your gift of time and wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. You're the greatest. I love you. I love what you do. I love how you do it. There's only one Dr. Stoll. So thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you.
A pleasure and honor to join you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. We've got a lot of great work to do. Lots of many years ahead of us, right?
100%.
I look forward to it. And to all of you, thank you for taking precious time from your lives to be with us tonight. Community really is important. And Marco and I believe in the power of community, power of in real life community, but this is also powerful because we are here connected in a meaningful way. So I want to appreciate you. I want to appreciate the journey you're on, all that you're doing. And as Marco said, each of us can take a responsibility for ourselves, which makes incredible change. And the ripple effect from the couple hundred people that watch this tonight and the hundreds that will watch this beyond can have radical transformation. So let's move together. Let's go together. There's no greater time than right now. So thanks for joining us. Make sure you register for PBNHC September 5th through the 8th. Do not miss it this year. You don't want to miss it. There are going to be some special announcements. Marco's going to be joining us, and I'm really glad that you can be with us. God bless everyone. Have a good night. Marco, blessings to you and your family. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Take care, my friend.